If Morgott and Mohg were never born Omen, the Elden Ring's history would never become more peaceful. It would become completely different. Morgott and Mohg were not simply victims of the Omen curse. Their curse shaped every major decision they made, every belief they held, and ultimately the fate of the Lands Between itself. Remove the curse and you don't just change two characters, you rewrite the entire dynasty. I believe that what if Morgott and Mohg were never born Omen is actually the same question as asking, what if Elden Ring had a different history from the very beginning? Imagine the Lands Between at the height of the Golden Order. Marika sits upon the throne. Godfrey stands as Elden Lord. Godwyn is the Golden Prince everyone admires. Everything appears stable. Then two more sons are born. In the story we know those sons are Morgott and Mohg, twins cursed with Omen blood, hidden beneath Leyndell, rejected before they are ever given a chance to become anything else. That rejection becomes the defining force of their lives. What if it never happened? The answer seems obvious at first, yet that simple change creates a massive complication, because nearly every important trait associated with Morgott and Mohg was formed through their experience as Omens. Morgott's desperate loyalty to the Golden Order comes from being rejected by it. Mohg's obsession with creating a new dynasty comes from being excluded from the existing one. Without the curse, neither man develops a worldview that defines him. Would Morgott and Mohg even resemble the characters we know? I don't think they would. I think they would become entirely different people. The Morgott we encounter is one of the most fascinating figures in Elden Ring, because his entire life is built around contradiction. He loves a kingdom that never loved him back. He protects an order that imprisoned him. He sacrifices everything for a society that considered him cursed. These details are revealed on my Morgott lore video, by the way, so check it out on my channel too. The link is gonna be in description. But let's move on. Without the Omen curse, that contradiction disappears. Instead of growing up in darkness beneath the capital, Morgott would likely be raised as one of the Marika's legitimate heirs. His intelligence, discipline and sense of duty would still exist. Those traits seem fundamental for his character, but they would no longer be fueled by rejection. I often wonder whether Morgott would become the natural successor to Godfrey rather than the lonely guardian we eventually meet. The irony of Morgott's life is that he spent centuries defending a throne he could never truly claim. A non-Omen Morgott would never face that limitation. He might become a celebrated general, a prince beloved by the capital, perhaps even a future Elden Lord candidate. The tragedy that made him unforgettable would never happen. And that means Leyndell itself becomes a different place. If Morgott represents loyalty taken to extreme, Mohg represents rebellion. Everything about Mohg is a reaction against exclusion. He creates a new dynasty because he cannot belong to the old one. He seeks power outside the Golden Order because the Golden Order never accepted him. The fascinating thing is that Mohg is actually incredibly ambitious. Even among demigods, few characters possesses his willingness to build something entirely new. But ambition alone doesn't create the Mohgwyn Dynasty. Pain does, exile does, resentment does. Take those away and Mohg's past changes dramatically. I can easily imagine a version of Mohg who remains within the Golden Order while still pushing for reform. Someone who questions existing structures without abandoning them entirely. Someone who competes politically, rather than building an underground empire. In many ways, Mohg may become one of the most influential figures in the royal family. His charisma and ambition would finally have legitimate outlets. The Lord of Blood only exists in Lands Between because the prince was denied a place in the kingdom. Without that rejection, there might never be a Lord of Blood at all. Keeping stated above in mind, let's imagine what the royal family becomes if Morgott and Mohg are accepted from birth. Instead of fractured family, we suddenly have four major royal figures standing together: Godwyn, Morgott, Mohg and Godfrey. That is an extraordinary concentration of power. The Golden Lineage no longer suffers from one of its greatest weaknesses, internal division. The historical consequences in this case could be enormous. Would Godfrey still be exiled? Would Marika still feel the need to reshape the order of succession? Would the balance between her children and the children of Radagon and Rennala develop differently? The discussion becomes less about two individuals and more about dynastic stability. Ironically, this stronger royal family may create new problems. History teaches us that powerful dynasties rarely remain united forever. A stronger Morgott and Mohg might not prevent conflict. They might simply create a different kind of conflict. Instead of forgotten princes emerging from the shadows, We could see rival heirs competing openly for influence. The result may resemble the Great Succession crisis found throughout fantasy and real-world history. Not peace, just a different road to chaos. Several possibilities emerge once Morgott and Mohg are no longer cursed. The most radical possibility is that Marika never needs to pursue the same solutions she pursued in the original timeline. That means the circumstances surrounding Miquella and Malenia could change completely. Perhaps they are never born, perhaps they are born differently, perhaps the entire balance of divine power shifts. When I follow this line of thinking, it becomes clear that the Omen twins are not isolated characters. They are part of a larger chain reaction. Their existence influences family dynamics. Family dynamics influences political decisions. Political decisions influence divine succession. And finally, divine succession influences the future of the lands between. Small change at the beginning creates consequences that spread outward throughout generations. This is why alternate history discussions about Morgott and Mohg feel so compelling. The deeper you go, the larger the ripple becomes. At first glance, removing the Omen curse feels like a path toward a happy ending. No imprisoned twins, no Mohgwyn Dynasty, no centuries of suffering beneath Leyndell. But the more I think about it, the less convinced I become. Elden Ring is filled with characters who are trapped by fate, ambition, pride, and divine expectations. The Omen curse may intensify those problems, but it didn't create all of them. Marika's ambitions would still exist, the struggle for succession would still exist, different visions for the future of the world would still exist, conflict in lands between would remain inevitable. The difference is that the conflict would wear a different face. Morgott might become a prince, Mohg might become a reformer, the Golden Lineage might become stronger than ever, yet the lands between would still be populated by demigods pursuing power, purpose, and destiny. And perhaps that is a real lesson hidden inside this question. The Omen curse shaped Morgott and Mohg, but it didn't create the flaws at the heart of the world. I believe that even without the curse, the story of Elden Ring may still end up the same way it always does, a kingdom struggling to survive beneath the weight of its own gods. Thanks for watching, hit that like button and subscribe for more Elden Ring and other Souls-like games lore and guide videos, and stay sharp out there, Tarnished.